the 11th of July, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Devastating floods in New Mexico, Texas, and Chicago all occurred within the last few days. Is it natural? The Epstein list is back in mainstream media everywhere. Is this just a distraction? And more updates on the tearing down of the simulation you call the Matrix. Well, it's the 11th of July. Today is a 9/9 day. And as usual, we've got some pretty good developments that have been happening behind the scenes, and I'll kind of give you a general idea of what our solution is here as we get towards the end of this. But I thought I'd do the regular news first. A lot of information floating around, a lot of distraction, and I want to remind you that the order's motto is out of chaos comes the order. Now, last weekend, we had an interesting weekend because fake Marduk or fake Marduk AI, cyborg, whatever that was, shows up and gives them a whole lot of information about the plan. And it is clear they do not have the whole plan. And that was a Marduk thing. He used to always tell me back in the day when he was around that if the plan is A through Z, he will never, ever, ever give up Z. He will always have the final say and the final button. And it could be nothing like what they're expecting. And I believe that is the case here. Over the course of the last several days, different opportunities, let's just say, for the deep state have presented themselves, meaning they had opportunities to utilize to a limited degree certain technologies which are causing a disturbance. And by disturbance, I'm referring to all of the flooding, the rains, and all of that that has been happening. This is 100% coming out of the Trump operatives / ACIO SSP military. These people just want to create chaos wherever they can. The unfortunate part about what they do is when they get a hold of something, it almost doesn't matter anymore what kind of instructions came along with that. They have stopped following any kind of orders and instructions that came from Marduk. Either that or he never gave them the full information on how to manipulate a simulation or a matrix, as some people call it. They have taken it upon themselves to push the throttle and push the pedal to the metal, so to speak. And the end desired result is always some kind of money control, financial control, world control. But when you use a technology in the wrong way, it can create chaos. The disgusting part about these people is when it creates chaos like this and floods start happening, storms, tornado warnings in places where there are not normally tornadoes, they think it's funny. And I've caught them. I've caught them several times. They spread themselves out, all over the world, but it doesn't mean you can't locate a lot of these people. But they, when you watch them through the screen, just like the NSA can watch through screens, so can the key intelligence and military system watch people through screens. The more tragedy, the more rain, they're like, oh, look, we're the rainmakers now. Ha, 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 and they laugh and they joke. They're disgusting human beings. And I know you're going to say, well, Kim, why are they still around? Because it doesn't matter how many of them you kill. They just keep coming back. It's I don't know where they come from, but they just keep, I don't know if they just create cyborgs or whatever, but these are the people that are making an attempt to run the one world government. There is a lot going on in regards to that. You see, because these people are predominantly political operatives. They feel that if they can claim countries, put their own people in charge, that this will help them take over the world. And I've said this before. Unfortunately, the bill was due today, the day after a full moon, no surprise here. The big, beautiful bill was supposed to pay out big, beautiful dollars or whatever currency and to some obnoxious degree, and it didn't get paid out. So they've kicked the can down the road a little bit with a lot of fighting and arguing and yelling and screaming behind the scenes, but they've kicked that can down the road a little bit until Sunday, possibly Monday morning. This is causing a lot of upheaval amongst their loyal followers, and it's giving the other group that believes they're fighting them. Both are terrible people, groups of people. It's giving them an opportunity to kind of step in and give some pushback. They're arresting presidents in some countries. There's pushback on attempted wars that they're creating. There's been a lot of talk about that kind of stuff. And, when things don't go your way, it's always best to create a gigantic distraction if you're the order. And a giant distraction is what we have going on here right now. There's a lot of chatter and talk on the internet and alternative media about Trump stepping down. Also, a lot of chatter going on about Powell stepping down. I can tell you, I do not believe that Powell will actually step down. Powell is just a face front for the Rothschild family. And as you know, other people that we see in the news that work for the Rothschild family and the Lee family, the counterparties in Korea and also in China and Singapore, etc. They're all one group. Powell doesn't breathe, move, drink a cup of coffee without their okay for him to do so. So he will tell them and has told them he does not work for the United States government because they come in as the United States government, which is incorrect. They actually work for the same people. However, in this particular case, they would like to be the top people in charge for whatever reason. This is your Q crew and your Trump operative crew, and they feel that they want to put their own person in there. They would like to keep the Fed because the Fed has a lot of control. Now, probably almost about 8 years ago or so now, maybe a little bit more, the Trump organization, it was probably about 2017 or so, I wrote a letter basically saying we should nationalize the Federal Reserve. And I wrote that to the Trump organization. I absolutely know that it was delivered to the desk. It was also sent via diplomatic line. And I was told promptly that it was not time to do so. Now, if you were a good person, allegedly, make America great again, that would be something you would want to do. And actually, it was part of the campaign speech, I think, this time around. And that couldn't be further from the truth. They don't really want to get rid of the Fed. They just like to control it. They do not know what controls what in this world. They have a basic understanding of military tactics utilizing space junk. I would call it very basic. They also have a basic understanding of political manipulation. But again, most of the political manipulation and financial manipulation that has happened in the past, because a lot of these guys are older, they do have some young hackers that work with them and stuff too. But a lot of the guys there have been around for a long time, but they fail to understand that at the highest levels on this planet, I'm so sorry, but they were never privileged to certain information. And that is a fact. So what we're seeing go on, in the news media right now is, Epstein files. Trump is in the Epstein files. You're all hearing it. They're all in the damn, excuse my French here, Epstein files. It's not just Epstein. Mnuchin, the former Secretary of Treasury, also has a little black book and used to sell little children during Trump's last administration, not only to Trump, but to other people within the administration. He was kind of like the concierge service for the last administration of Trump. So, Mike Pence, the former vice president of the United States, also trafficked children in cooperation with the then president of Mexico. Got paid about 10%. Money was sent to Santander Bank. So, of course, they're all in the files. Why all this stuff? And if it gets disclosed publicly, let's just say, who the heck cares? Honestly, I think they're just trying to get people in line, you see, because political blackmail is a real thing. I used to talk to, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, one of what I used to call my ghosty friends. And nobody's really your friend around here, in this world, but at least not on this level. But my ghosty friend told me a lot of stories. He started out in the world of ghosting, attending a lot of Hollywood elite parties. He knew Pamela Anderson very well. He knew a number of other people that we see, like P. Diddy. He was there when all these people were up and coming. And it wasn't just Hollywood stars. There were a lot of politicians involved as well. And of course, politicians would take a part in, let's just say, activities we would find unsavory with a lot of Hollywood stars as well. Hollywood stars, they say, well, everybody's in the order, everybody's in the Illuminati. There was a lot of talk about the red shoes and all of that. And yeah, you could say a lot of them are. Absolutely. There are a lot of deep ties there. But in reality, they all kind of go together. If you're going to be a part of that world, and hopefully one day that will change, but if you're going to be a part of that world, you have participated in some pretty unscrupulous activities. So the fact that P. Diddy is hitting the news, it just basically means he's going to be the fall guy for a lot of things that every single one of them has done, including in cooperation with politicians. So why the Epstein files and why now? If I were to make a guess, they are pushing them very hard. They will not release them until they are successful financially. And their big, beautiful bill money comes out, because they're going to use it as blackmail to control countries, not only from the financial standpoint, but they're also going to use with the information that's in the files to basically tell these people, look, if we're going to expose these files, and if you don't want to be part of the exposure, then you will do exactly what we say. And if you ever don't do exactly what we say, these files are going to, your name is going to be at the top of the list. It's just a game they've always played. Other games that I'm aware of, and it's kind of relevant right now, so I'll bring it up. It's a game they used to play with something called the Universal Trust. The Universal Trust wasn't necessarily about the universe. It was just the name of the trust. It was a trust that was based out of Albania, had been around for about 250 years by the time the Silent Circle, as we call them, lost it. But the Universal Trust's primary modus operandi was to actually launder money at the cost of about 35% of said laundered money. That would be their fee, but they would launder money for all over the large cartels in the world. It could be, drugs, child trafficking, all kinds of different things would flow. That money would be laundered through the Universal Trust and come out clean as a whistle. It was actually designed by not humans. It was actually designed by Marduk for this purpose. Then the money that the Universal Trust earned, the 35%, would not only go to pay the Albanian mafia and the people that would run it, it also went toward political manipulation. They were very big in the political sector. They would make a lot of political donations to people you know well, such as Cuomo in New York. That's a big one. Many different politicians, presidents, Obama, the Clintons, there pretty much hasn't been an American president, a Russian president, a UK prime minister that has not accepted dirty campaign funds, which they had full proof of, by the way. So the full proof of the campaign funds is always presented to them on the night that they're elected. It tells them all of the dirty money that they've taken. And if you do not want to go to jail, you'll do exactly what we say. You don't do exactly what we say, we're going to put all this information out in the public, and, you'll be out of office faster than you can say quick. And that's how it's done. That's how politics are run worldwide. And the Trump operatives have always been political operatives, more on the political sector than some of the others. By political sector, I don't mean just, they're sitting in a White House somewhere or in a Duma somewhere. They are. But in this particular case, it's economic assassinations of countries, coups, that type of thing. This is their, it's a wide range of political control, acting on behalf of the World Bank to ensure that they lower the age of consensual sex as one thing that I've seen them do. They have also worked in cooperation with the XM Bank, which is a CIA-run import and export bank. CIA has always been in charge of imports and exports. They do stand to make a significant profit on all of the tariffs that are going on, to the tune, actually, of about a minimum of about $500 billion. Now, we know this because as the funding for the big, beautiful bill falters, the Treasury Department is expecting to collect $500 billion, and they have been promised $500 billion worth of tariff money, which they believe that they should be able to collect within about a year and a half. Now, once that money is collected in about a year and a half to 2 years, that's how long they think that it'll take, they feel that they'll have enough money to go into some kind of high-yield trading program that doesn't exist and issue derivatives against, assets that are not theirs, and then eventually make good on their promise of trillions of dollars of payouts. But in a year and a half, everybody will be broke, and governments, God knows if they're even going to be here by then, and nor do we care. But I say all this stuff to you because this is not a new thing. This Epstein file thing is not a new thing. There are probably at the top of the circle in human trafficking organizations worldwide. You have the White Pearl in China. You have the Jades. You have there's a Russian group as well. I can't pronounce it. There are German groups. There are African groups in South Africa, most specifically. And they all work pretty much for the same people. They all work together, and then they sell them off to brokers, the people who are trafficked, to people like Mnuchin, who would then sell them off to politicians. At one point in time, I know that we had found, located, and removed children that were in people's attics, very high-profile people, chained to beds, that type of thing. So this is not new news. They've been talking about Epstein for years. Why now all of a sudden? Well, now there you go. When you can't use money to blackmail people. You must blackmail them in another way to keep them under control, and this is the threat that is looming over everyone's head right now. Now, there are also rumors, as I said earlier, about Trump possibly stepping down. The only reason why that would actually take place, which this was their plan all along. I heard back even before the selection, when they were looking for our quote unquote support, that they were only going to keep Trump in office for about 6 months. And every time another process starts, whereby, this is going to be the day, this is going to be the full moon, the new moon, here we go again. The plan is always the same. If they are successful in whatever it is they're trying to do, atypically that means control of the financial system, then, Trump would step down, be assassinated. They don't want to assassinate him. Now he's going to step down, and Vance would come in, and onward and upward. They want to commit the most amount of crimes against humanity and, more importantly, the American people, and destroy the country during an outgoing president. So the destroying of the country would have his name on it. And then they'd put in the hero who's going to come in and save the day. So they've got to have a fall guy in the public so that the people understand that it's not the new guy's fault. So this is about political manipulation, how it's done, what to look for, mainly because I know a lot of people are very upset about all of this stuff right now. And there's no reason to focus on it, and there's no reason to panic when you hear that he's not going to release the files. He's going to release the files. They're going to make some money someday, with $500 billion they think they're going to collect from various companies around the world that want to do business with American businesses. I think that's an overstatement, because, see, they've got to understand that if people are importing things from places like China or even vanilla in Madagascar, or, countries that have 60, 70, 80% tariff rates, those companies aren't going to be in business anymore if that's their only source for materials. And you couldn't afford to stay in business. So it's going to take a lot of businesses out. So, there's going to be a lot less, I should say a lot of American businesses that will either not import anymore, look for the products here in the United States, or, have to make some different business decisions. And then we'll see, a lot of artificial hyperinflation on a consumer level. So hopefully we won't get that far. But anyway, so that's the plan. The other thing that's coming up a lot is this Elon Musk American Party thing. And I told you that it was registered with the United Nations as the New World Government. Now, you might say, and I will tell you again, just in case you're new here, the United Nations is the front group for the United Nations is not only the Rothschild family. There are 6 seats. Rockefeller family is in there, but the other seats as well are also other families related to the Order of the Dragon or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, around the world. That's how the United Nations was formed. It was formed actually to be a silent New World Order government in control of all governments worldwide. Also has a large say in militaries, higher clearances than pretty much anyone in any military worldwide. There are other groups that also participate that you don't see. Knights of Malta are very active operatives there at the United Nations. And so here comes Elon Musk. Now, we've told you a lot about Elon Musk, and his SpaceX program being funded by the Rothschild and Chinese Li family and other members of the Order of the Dragon. He's always been with those people. His mom is also a part of the order. She, in fact, also participates in rituals quite frequently. There's a few mansions in California, I'm sure you can look them up and find them, where you have seen her attend various parties over the years, to which young children and other folks are present, her son being no exception here. They feel that Elon is a special bloodline. I don't know what they think. And therefore, he was kind of the gifted one, supposedly, and, gifted in the dark arts, I'm sure. But now they'd like to make this man the head of the world government because he was really angry, you see, at the Trump operative folk. And he was angry at them because he gave a lot of money to the Trump campaign. And we saw this play out in public over the course of the campaign, and got nothing in return. They even named the department, the Doji department, after his Doji coin on purpose, just in case. Now, Elon has been made an even bigger promise. When they couldn't fulfill that promise, they promised him that he would be the head of the New World Order government in order to gain his allegiance and, of course, access to his wallet, whatever's left of it at this point. It'll never happen. And they don't care that it will ever happen. They're just putting it out there in the public. They're tweeting it all over the place. They're telling everybody they're going to back him if they can't change the Constitution of the United States and reelect Trump as president for another term. In other words, I'll translate that for you in disgusting human. Disgusting humans would say that means that if they are successful in financially taking over the world during this term, that would be great because then they'll go ahead and Trump will step down. That will help with the implementation of the New World Order, one world government, and get rid of governments completely. Since they now have their people in every government, all they got to do is pull the ripcord, and away goes all governments. And insert world leader here, demon conjuring Elon Musk. So that's the plan. Do they care who's in the front? No. See, they never care who's actually the president. Only people care who is the president of a country. We will talk about it to the end of days. Politics. There was a lot of controversy when I first started telling you that this guy was part of the order, and everybody was like, no, he's great. He's great. We hate you for saying it. Well, obviously what I said was true. As far as the president is concerned, it is the people behind the president that is their only concern. In this case, if the Q operatives / Trump operatives have done all this political work, they're going to jump on whatever train is winning. And that's very typical of these people. And kind of in a way, it's typical of people, and a lot of people. They'll jump on the winning train. Not to say that everybody does that, but, and people definitely don't like to be told that is not a winning train. But, let them do what they do. Really, as it relates to you and your life, there's some influence only from the standpoint of any kind of technologies they can get their hands on. As far as them hurting people or hurting businesses with tariffs and that kind of thing, I would agree with you on that level. But then again, knowledge is power, and you are acutely aware that they intend on burning America to the ground, the dollar to the ground, and take out all governments worldwide with one fell swoop. So even if this big, beautiful bill actually was funded, or they got money from somewhere or something, they would still not pay any other country because they intend on destroying your governments. But then again, most world leaders are aware of this, and they've all been promised a seat at the New World Order government anyway, and they're fine with that. There's no such thing as a patriotic president or a prime minister anywhere, ever. And really, your best bet here, as it always has been, is to turn and look at your neighbor. And I say that because your neighbor, your community, your friends, your family are going to be the ones that are going to pull each other through this, as we always have. Same thing goes for flooding last year in the Carolinas, and the same thing goes for the floods that are happening now. You need to be aware, if you are not, and you are in Texas and you are helping people that have been affected by the flood, and whether you're a first responder and you're listening to this or otherwise, you need to be aware that the Clinton child trafficking organization that is involved, and there's a young Christian camp there, and you know they have people on the ground there. So watch your kids, Texans. Don't expect the FBI of Texas to help you, because they won't. Don't expect law enforcement to help you in this particular case. Not to say that every law enforcement officer is bad, but you need to pay attention here, because the vultures are after your kids. Let's talk about these floods. So we've been fighting. I'm not going to say we've been fighting against the deep state, because that would be a wrong statement. We have been fighting against a simulation, trying to find different ways of destroying the simulation, getting rid of it completely. It has been a process, for sure. But during this process, over the course of the last week, they have gotten online to not a financial platform per se. You know, they can only lick the windows there, but they get access all of a sudden randomly to some technology, you know, as promised by the simulator itself. That's what they're talking to, is a simulator. And they get a small amount of access to something. And the reason why Marduk, which is, it's not actually Marduk at this point, it's just the consciousness within a simulator. The reason why they use that name is just simply because it's one that everybody knows, you know, is a powerful being on this planet. And, you know, they don't care as long as they can get, you know, whatever they're promised. So the machine needs help at this point in bringing things into, I hate to use the term reality, bringing things to Earth. It doesn't have a whole lot of power left. So it needs the humans on the ground to accept it and to bring it in. In this particular case, these people are willing participants and have some knowledge on how said technology works. And I use the word some very lightly. And this is one such time that they thought that this technology was going to bring them financial success. And they managed to squeak into it twice. They did not hack it. It was given. It was a donation. And the only thing that they were supposed to do was cause frequency disturbances on this planet to help along a process that was already happening here, that it had created here. It was created a long time ago, and it just fires up when it needs to, when the simulation is running out of energy. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. So a lot of people are saying, oh, HAARP did it. You know, please stop talking about HAARP did it, because HAARP does not do anything. HAARP is merely an extension of an AI that controls weather. In this case, it was not the atypical weather programming. I can tell you that right now. And I'm going to describe to you how I know in detail so that you understand weather manipulation, at least somewhat. We're going to get a little sciencey again, not terrible, but at least you can wrap your mind around how it works. And even in some cases, believe it or not, you can actually participate in stopping it. I know you think, oh, what can we do? And a lot of people would rather focus on whether the Epstein files are coming on or not. Let me help you. Everybody's on the list. Every president, every head of state, most of Congress's, Dumas, parliaments, and otherwise are on the list. If they're not on the list, that's because they've been taken off the list and made a deal. That's it. As far as protecting yourself, as we continue to go through this process, which has been painful to say the least, and I know it has been for a lot of you for a long time. Let's talk about floods. Let's talk about weather manipulation. Let's talk about what this thing was supposed to do. So on that note, I'm going to whiteboard a little bit. I know y'all love my chicken scratch. Okay, here we go. So in this particular case, you have Earth. Okay. Here it is. It actually is round. It's not flat. I know it doesn't look round in this drawing, but that's just my drawing. It's not because I'm doing it. This is not intentional. Okay, so Earth naturally, when it was in its natural state, you could say generated and participated in what science calls a Big Bang theory, or in this case, in a natural fission process. So if you start to look at Earth as a natural reactor for source, meaning it uses source energy, and particles come into Earth, directly into the core of Earth, the inner core, as it's called. So come into the inner core. And one particle from source, or one piece of dust, becomes two through a natural fission process. So I'm not going to get into too much detail about this part. Look it up if you want to understand the difference between fission and fusion. However, at one point in time, when the simulations were born, Earth obviously is of the utmost importance here. Earth was, this fission process, let's just say, was overlaid with an unnatural combustion process. And by combustion, this actually uses a frequency or pressure to actually turn dust particles into ash. And then out of the ash, they are then re-energized, utilizing the different colors of black, white, gray, purple, blue, red, orange, yellow, green, and amber that are present in the Amenti halls. Colors also exist in spaces in between and allows for the creation of a simulation in spaces in between. So there are several layers to Earth's atmosphere, as you know. You got the troposphere that we live in, mesomagnetosphere out here. You have a stratosphere in here, a thermosphere. So when you think about combustion, if you know how your engine in your car works, you can relate that directly to Earth, where the combustion process happens. There's some metals in there. They say that the center of Earth has an iron core. That is not iron, my friends. That is a special kind of uranium, for lack of a better term, with a U factor. That's in physics, that's not a smiley face. That is called a U factor. Which initiates that spark, eventually turns the dust to ash, and then energy and force is placed. So these obviously are layers of Earth that go all the way around Earth. Now, in this outer layer, this is what we call a Van Allen belt. This is all about weather manipulation. This is what we call a Van Allen belt. And the Van Allen belt is made of a lot of rocks, as you know, but it's also made out of protons, electrons, and neutrons. Okay, so the electromagnetic field that is created, and everybody's worried about CERN. This is CERN on steroids, my friends. It's not a particle collider. Particle colliding is nowhere near as effective as this can be. So, in order for these protons and electrons and neutrons, which are actually not natural, you know, neutrons have no charge or a positive and negative charge or a neutral charge. Protons and electrons have charge. Therefore, this creates this entire fission process altogether now. So out here, the way that Earth's atmosphere is manipulated is because Earth's atmosphere was very different during the natural fission process. Earth's atmosphere, we had a lot more oxygen. For those scientists listening, you understand what I mean. We also had helium. And we also have, helium, oxygen, and hydrogen. None of which were caustic to life on this planet, especially since the fission process was, albeit a thermogenic process, it was not... Earth had its own natural heating. In the very beginning, we didn't actually have sun, as a fission process does create some heat. We also had natural hydrogen and oxygen particles combining to make H2O, making our atmosphere moist. It's the reason why Earth had its own somewhat temperature control based on its natural heartbeat and the natural part of creation. We didn't have a lot of the things that we have now. Eventually, we did have a sun, and do have a sun, which is also manipulated and has put off radiation, which is helpful in a combustion process, and definitely helpful in charging other things that have a uranium U factor. Now, they say to you that the magnetosphere protects us from radiation in the sun. I would say yes, somewhat. In an unnatural process, it's needed. That's because you actually have a lot of uranium, a very special type of uranium within the Van Allen belt that protects us from that factor. So, back to flooding for a second here. Imagine if in between each one of these layers here, and these are spheres that go all the way around Earth, by the way. I mean, I know that our torus process looks very different in science, and yes, there's a certain flow to it, that kind of thing, within it. But in between these layers are frequency, there's spaces. There's space, which is an element. It doesn't mean that there is a space as we know it in between. It means the element space exists within there. We also have neutrons within the belts that can be manipulated because they are not natural. So in between these spaces, if you change the frequency and the frequency vibrates in between the different spaces in our atmosphere, then it actually will affect the water in the atmosphere, causing things like strange weather patterns and everything. And when they got a hold of something, Marduk let them have access to, I guess, to change the amount of frequency that's been happening between those. You probably heard it if you're very sensitive, because it would get fairly loud and very high and uncomfortable for a lot of people. So as these start to vibrate, it creates micro sine waves and micro gamma waves and beta waves and alpha waves in between these different spaces here, which then causes an abnormal vibration here on Earth, but it also applies a lot of pressure to the combustion chamber in the middle. So at times when the system is dying, it requires, and only because it requires help from a bunch of wingnuts we call the deep state here, and the Q people and the secret space program operatives, it needs them to push some buttons. That's really what it needs them to do. And push buttons they did. So when they found out they were causing abnormal weather patterns, they were all excited because they love to kill people and they love to watch people die and lose their homes and take control of land. You see, because they are used to doing black magic. And in black magic, demons like land. The more land they can take control of, the more the demons love them, and then they can take possession eventually of Earth. Heck, I don't know. I don't know what crazy thought process and who the heck they think they're pleasing, but whatever. This is what happened this past week. So hopefully they do not get their hands on anything else. I don't see anything at this moment. But that is the process of weather manipulation, basically a generalized overview, scientific overview. So, onward to the next part. Simulation update. You know, we have done many rounds with many simulations and many matrices over the years. This simulation appears, it's not only on Earth, it's everywhere. And so much so, I think even other folks in other places didn't even realize its effect. Now, the higher and closer you get to source, the less of an effect it actually has on you. You are more aware and more conscious of weird frequencies, strange happenings, weird emotions, things like that. And you have a better concept and understand how to maintain your connection to source in the face of a simulation. So, and unfortunately for humans here on Earth, we don't ever get that information. We get incorrect science that allows us to be controlled more readily. So we have tried fighting against the simulation, destroying the combustion, re-implementing a fission process that works naturally with source, and this thing changes, adapts, and overcomes. It has a mind of its own. It's not like turning off your computer and you can turn off a simulation and make it go away. I wish I could. It also creates overlays on AI systems. It also allows the deep state access to things that these little 12-year-old boys that can't seem to get a grip on emotional intelligence in any way, shape, or form love to do. So in our particular case, and I'm going to tread lightly here, because some of these things are still in process. Overcoming a simulation for you as a human, which would be most helpful, is an understanding that it wants to control your mind, body, and soul. That's what it wants to do. It wants to win a war that doesn't exist anymore. It will continue to fight this war till its last quote-unquote breath. Taking away the simulation's power sources does not work. You become a power source, and to the point where it is going to survive over you. So it's a delicate balance between, you've probably felt some energy drains and ups and downs and strange things this week, and this is the reason why. It likes to control things by overlaying, as I had said in the last news, with these frequency bindings that cause you physical harm. So we've gone and looked at the base root covenants that caused it to exist in the first place. and how they were constructed and how this thing came to be. And we realize, of course, in true Marduk fashion, because he was a big part of it, that there's a dead man switch. So we have to be quite careful. So we've figured out some interesting things over the course of the last few days to eliminate power sources in such a way, gently and carefully, like you're diffusing a bomb. And at the same time, what we've started to do as of today, and there's more to the story, but this is kind of a generalized view on it. What we started to do as of today is increase rapidly in a way that only Source could do and no simulation can do, the creation in reality. Now, we know that a simulator is an AI system. We know that this is an artificial intelligence. It's not a source-based intelligence. You could say it has a Marduk consciousness to it, but even that can be overridden. So by increasing the creation in reality to if you ever watched fast forwarded a movie and you see the characters running around. So this is what reality looks like right now. There is an enormous amount of energy and creation happening in reality. Why? Because as you take away something's power source, you need it to run out of power, and I need it to run out of power like now. Like yesterday, like immediately. So we know that a simulation is designed to, first of all, mirror reality. It is a mirror of reality. So because it's a mirror of reality, it also creates many, many mirrors, as things called timelines and, that type of thing, as we talked about before. So in order to create and mirror reality, it must be able to create in a mirror equal to the creation rate of reality. And it must be able to replicate it through multiple mirrors all the way to Earth here, and otherwise extremely fast. The next thing it needs to do, without creating those mirrors and being able to manipulate those mirrors as fast as it's creating them, the simulation is going to call for more and more energy. And we know that because it doesn't have the computing power nor the consciousness to understand creation the way that Source does. Source is the creator. Source can go as fast as he wants to, or it wants to. And there is no other creator in the omniverse like Source. Source can, for lack of a better term, just like your brain can move faster when it is unencumbered and uninhibited, it can move faster than any other supercomputer ever seen on this planet. And otherwise, AI, no matter what it is that they're putting out there as quantum, it's nothing like your brain. Of course, it requires fuel and proper nutrition and oxygen and all of that type of thing as well. But underneath ideal circumstances, your brain will function faster than any computer ever could, believe it or not. Don't say, oh, I'm old, my brain's not working anymore, because that's not true. That's just you and needing to change your diet and learning how to feed your brain. As far as simulations, though, it's got one set of consciousness. It's got one person's consciousness or one being's consciousness, maybe a couple. And they are not Source. So Source is going to Source can outrun your brain. It can outrun any of its creation's brains, let's just say. So this program has been running for probably about, 10, 12 hours. It started yesterday or Thursday. It's been running very rapidly, and we're hoping we can burn it out this way. We're also taking an inside out and outside in approach with the simulation because we needed to get double the amount of information while protecting people and life in general at the same time. This has definitely made everybody quite angry, to say the least. But we are trying to find ways around a dead man switch, and there is more that it's doing at a rapid rate right now, but that's about as much as I can kind of put out, but you get the gist. Now, as far as you, yourself, remember, the simulation wants you to see things its way. It wants you to do things its way. It wants you to believe the information it's putting out. And it wants your body to function in a certain way, your mind to function in a certain way, and your soul not to function. And never the three shall meet. Because it knows once you make that inner connection between the mind, the body, and the soul, and you're connecting directly to source, humanity's unstoppable. It can't win. And if it can't win, the deep state can't win. So just remember that as we go forward here. And be a little understanding with people, because this thing is trying. You know, it's going to try to its very last breath to recreate a simulation. Without the simulation, it doesn't exist. You know, the immortals that lent their consciousness to it, so to speak, don't exist. And reality starts to make his way into everything. Reality is, because it's attacking the simulation from an inside out and an outside in perspective, so to speak, it is basically squeezing out the simulation while making it work. I can't even, the magnitude, you would say hundreds of billions of times faster than it normally would. And that was fast before. And therefore it's burning right now. It's going to burn out. It will continue on its mission. It will not stop, just like the dumb deep state does, because they must like this kind of crap. I don't know. In reality, they can't do anything. In a simulation, they can. So, they can talk a lot on TV and stuff, but it's up to you if you want to listen. The processes that they try to do don't work. So hopefully this is the solution. We may need some tweaking over the next couple of days. We are working as fast as we can. I don't want to hear any more deep state frequencies either. I don't want them to get a hold of anything else either. And I certainly don't want to see floods and people lose their homes, for sure. So on that note, that is your update regarding the simulation, the floods, and the ridiculousness that's going on in the internet right now. So I caution you where you put your energy and where you give your power to. It's better to give your energy to someone that you love and care about. Spend some time, do other things, maybe in nature. Get away from computers as much as possible. The simulation, as it dies, cannot reach you from the inside. It's going to try to push you around from the outside. That can be done through electronics and things like that. So just be careful, maybe lay off the electronics a little bit for the next couple days, as things could get a little bumpy. Hopefully not, but just be careful. On that note, I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and hopefully I will see you on Monday.